Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Nara Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to the Bhagavatam reading session. So we had halted over here at the third chapter, 15th shloka, and we were supposed to move at the 16th shloka, where Krishna is in Dwarka and what are the opulences of the Supreme Lord, and how the Lord protected Ashwathama's from Ashwathama Uttara. So all these instances have taken place in this particular section. So let's just dive into the section. So till now, the whole scenario is that Uddhava is continuing to narrate the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in Mathura also and in Dwarka. So initially from shloka number 1 to 15, he has narrated the pastimes of Mathura, and now he will be narrating the pastimes of Dwarka also, and a little part of again Mathura also again, and Hastinapur as well. So he says that Evam sanchintya bhagavan swarajye sthapaya dharma jamaha nandayamasa suridaha sadhunam vartam darshayan. This is Lord Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaj Yudhishthir in the position of the supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. So, he wanted to show what is an ideal administration of ruling the world. Uttarayam Rita Puror Vamsha Sadha Abhimanyuha Savai Draunastra Samplushta Punar Bhagavata Drutaha. translation. So today Sushil Prabhu is not there. So his friend, His Grace Lakshmi Narayan Prabhu will take his place and read the translation and purport both. Yeah, Prabhu, read.
Translation. The embryo of Puru's descendant begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burned by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord. Purport. The embryonic body of Parikshit, which was in formation after Uttara's pregnancy by Abhimanyu, the great hero, was burned by the Brahmastra of Ashwatthama, but a second body was given by the Lord within the womb, and thus the descendant of Puru was saved. This incident is the direct proof that the body and the living entity, the spiritual spark, are different. When the living entity takes shelter in the womb of a woman, through the injection of the semen of a man, there is an emulsification of the man's and woman's discharges, and thus a body is formed, the size of a pea, gradually developing into a complete body. But if the developing embryo is destroyed in some way or other, the living entity has to take shelter in another body or in the womb of another woman. The particular living entity who was selected to be the descendant of Maharaja Puru or the Pandavas was not an ordinary living entity, and by the superior will of the Lord, he was destined to be the successor to Maharaja Yudhishthira. Therefore, when Ashwatthama destroyed the embryo of Maharaja Parikshit, the Lord, by his own internal potency, entered into the womb of Uttara by his plenary portion just to give audience to the would-be Maharaja Parikshit, who was in great danger. By his appearance within the womb, the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. By his power and by his power of omnipresence, he was present both inside and outside of Uttara and other members of the Pandava family. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So see, Krishna is giving protection. And that is why Krishna is called Bhakta Vatsala. He is actually, his speciality is that he is Bhakta Vatsal. Whenever his devotees are in trouble, so he will always go and protect them, and that is his that is his expertise of Krishna. That devotees of Krishna have a very different mood than the devotees of Lord Ram also, because devotees of Ram actually very strict about dharma, because Lord Ram is also very strict about dharma. So and Krishna, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he promises that he will not take up any weapon in the Kurukshetra. But just in the middle of the battlefield, we see what happens. Bhishma, who is the best fighter, he gives bit trouble to Arjuna, and then immediately Krishna abolishes his promise, and he takes up that wheel of a chariot, and he runs towards Bhishma, and he's ready to just kill him, and he broke his promise like that. So that is why Krishna says, na Kaunteya pratijani name bhaktya pranashati, go and declare it, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. And why only Arjuna? Because nobody will believe Krishna, because he does not keep his promise. So in one of the books the acharyas say, but Arjuna is always a man of word, and definitely Arjuna will not break that word. So when Krishna comes to show how to live in this world, then he displays the principles of dharma. But when the Supreme Lord comes, sorry, when mm, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to show how to live in this world, then he is, displaying the principle of dharma. But when uh, the Supreme Lord comes to show that what it is like in the spiritual world, then he breaks even those rules of dharma. So, because for Krishna, his devotee is more important to him than his own reputation, and more important than even dharma. So he is ready to put his devotee before anything. And that is why Krishna is called actually Bhaktavatsal. Bhaktavatsal means one who places the devotee before anything and who is ready to sacrifice and dedicate himself to his devotee. That is called actually Bhaktavatsal. So it is said that when that Krishna even takes the form of that devotee, desire, and that is why Krishna is known as Daksha. Daksha means one who is Nipuna. Nipuna means one who is expert, who is expert and who is fulfilling this, who is fulfilling the desires of different purposes at the same time. So when he is breaking his promise to show that he's Krishna is transcendental to dharma, he was also reciprocating with his devotee Bhishma, with whom had he had his desire of expressing Virya Ras in one of the mellows, that you can say, the relationship, we can say, chivalry. So Bhishma was fighting with him, shooting arrows at Krishna and making so many wounds on the body. And Krishna took those arrows as offering of flowers. He was thinking, oh, these are rose flowers, he's just throwing at me. And it is so amazing that how Krishna is reciprocating and takes that form that his devotee desires. So so wonderful how the Lord becomes controlled by the desire of his devotees. And this is our Krishna. And that is why there are so many forms of the Lord, as each form reciprocates with devotees who have different moods. So I always generally tell that Krishna is exclusively looking for that living entity's love, right? And uh, um, uh, Krishna is exclusively looking for, because every devotee has a different way of loving Krishna, and Krishna equally is reciprocating with that love. So that is why uh, Krishna, who is the lover of many devotees, he may embrace a fully surrendered devotee, where in the Shishtastakam he's saying, no, Ashlishava Padara Pinashtumam Adarshana Marmahatam Karotu Vayata Tathava Vidadhatu Lampato Mad Prananatha Sev. He may embrace a fully surrendered devotee, or he may trample with his feet, but still, for the devotee, he is uh, he's nothing less than that he'll remain my prananath forever. And if you see, even in the in of course, when you say that that okay, he may make me broken hearted, or he may not be even present before me for a long duration, but still he is nothing less than the absolute truth of my heart. So this thinking is of a Mahabhagavat thinking. And Mahabhagavat, we should not, we can say that we should not imitate the Mahabhagavat as it said, but we should we should always see that how we can develop our attachment towards Krishna. And when we say that, Bhakta Vatsalta of Krishna, in this case, especially when, Krishna is saving Uttara's womb, or he's saving Parikshit Maharaj in the womb. So, Krishna, he's not seeing that, oh, what will people say? Krishna is least bothered about what people will say. Generally, people saying that, what will people say, and, but then you see that he is not least bothered. He's just that because he knows that this is the only last lineage of the Pandavas, and I have to save. And mm, so, in fact, when we say this word also now, Vatsal, Vatsal is actually the affectionate mood offered by the Lord. So, that's why we say Vatsalya Ras. So, Vatsal is the affection offered in the mood of, devotional service, which is known as Vatsalya Ras. Awe and reverence, of course, awe and reverence aren't only the options for, devotees looking to connect with Krishna, but more intimate dealings also, one can become, God's parent, Krishna's parent, or his friend or lover. So, Krishna, when he is Bhakta Vatsal, he is trying to protect his devotee. Protection is given by the parents, to their children. And that's how Krishna is known as Bhakta Vatsal. That is why you see nowhere, they will say, oh, Krishna is Gyani Vatsal, or Krishna is Yogi Vatsal. He is always described as Bhakta Vatsal because he's more inclined towards his devotees than towards any of the, transcendentalist, or any of the Gyanis or of the yogis as such. So that is why he is called Bhakta Vatsal. And you can say that Krishna has that supreme affection in his heart, filled, and that same affection he has even today for the devotees. It's not like that all this affection was only in Dwapar Yuga, or will not be there in Kali Yuga. No, it is relevant in today's time, and it will be relevant for time eternal. It is not that Krishna will be, Bhakta Vatsal only for maybe 10 minutes or 10 seconds or something. No, Krishna is Bhakta Vatsal throughout. Ye yatha ma prapadyante. So to the degree we are also surrendered to Krishna, Krishna will also, reciprocate and give us that particular protection. So this is, in just short, I wanted to say this in this particular shloka. So next he says that अयाजया धर्मसुतम् अश्वमेधस्त्रिभिर्विभु सोऽपि क्षमम् अनुजैरक्षान् रेमे कृष्णम् अनुव्रतः. Rupa Mataji, please read this translation and purport if you are in a position to read.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The Supreme Lord induced the son of Dharma to perform 3 horse sacrifices, and Maharaja Yudhishthira, constantly following Krishna, the personality of Godhead, protected and enjoyed the earth, assisted by his younger brothers. Purport. Maharaja Yudhishthira was the ideal monarchical representative on the earth because he was a constant follower of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, as stated in the Vedas Ishopanishad. The Lord is the proprietor of the entire manifested cosmic creation, which presents a chance for the conditioned souls to revive their eternal relationship with the Lord and thus go back to Godhead, back home. The whole system of the material world is arranged with that program and plan. Anyone who violates the plan is punished by the law of nature, which is acting by the direction of the Supreme Lord. Maharaja Yudhishthira was installed on the throne of the earth as a representative of the Lord. The king is always expected to be the representative of the Lord. Perfect.
Perfect monarchy.
Where am I? Perfect monarchy necessitates representation of the supreme will of the Lord, and Maharaja Yudhishthira was the ideal monarch on these supreme principle. Both the king and the subjects were happy in the discharge of worldly duties and thus protection of the citizens and enjoyment of natural life with full cooperation of material nature followed in the reign of Maharaja Yudhishthira and his worthy descendants like Maharaja Parikshit. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So then, the next shloka he says that Bhagavanapi Vishwatma Loka Veda Patanuga Kaman Sisheve Dvarvatyam Akshata Sankyam Astitaha. So he says that, translation and purport both. Anuprabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Translation. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarika, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Samkhya system of philosophy. Purport. While Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwarika and was known as Dwarikadish. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of the Vedic injunctions because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such knowledge, detachment and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely as he willed, yet by his practical example he taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. Attainment of knowledge and detachment, as very elaborately discussed in the Sankhya philosophy, is the real perfection of life. Knowledge means to know that the mission of the human form of life is to end all the miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessities in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of the spirit soul is the human mission.
Yeah. So, if you see, one of the opulences of Krishna is actually detachment. He's not very, attached. He's pretty, detached. And like that, there are so many opulences. 6 are, primary, but there are many other opulences also of the Lord, of the where mm, in which chapter we have opulence of the absolute, that's in the Bhagavad-gītā 11th chapter. So many other opulences Krishna has, but he's completely detached. He's not attached to these opulences at all. And he has knowledge also, and he has detachment also. So now we have the 21st shloka. So this is a very nice shloka, that how the Lord enjoyed his pastimes in the association with the Yadus. And that night, where at that night, how he used to enjoy with his queens also. So very nice Sanskrit words are used over here. He says that snigdha, smita va lokena, vacha piyusha kalpaya. Then he's saying that chitrena navadhyena Śrī Niketa Chatmana. Even in the Gopi Geet, we have this word Śrī Niketanam. Fani Fanarpitam Śrī Niketanam. So when he says that, Snigdha Smitava Lokena, so he's saying that gentle by a glance with sweet smile. So Krishna had affectionate smiles and glances. And then Vacha Piyusha Kalpaya. Piyush is, when you say Piyush means nectar, and Vacha means, words. So nectarian words Krishna had. And then he says that Charitrena Anavadyena. So his character is flawless, or you can say flawless character also. And then he's saying that Śrī Niketan Chatmana. So that transcendental body of the Supreme Lord is the residence of Mother Lakshmi, of the goddess of fortune. And the Lord enjoyed his pastimes in the association of Yadus. And at night, he enjoyed conjugal love with his queens. So he was there in his transcendental body, the residence of the goddess of fortune, with his usual gentle and sweetly smiling face, his nectarian words, and his flawless character. So when we hear such, adjectives about Krishna, or these transcendental words about Krishna, immediately, our attraction towards Krishna becomes more intense. We get more attracted to Krishna when we hear, oh, he has affectionate smiles and glances. His words are nectarian words. And then when we are reading the Bhagavad-gītā, that time we will really realize, oh, this is, the song sung by the Supreme Lord, and how every word in the Bhagavad-gītā is so nectarian, and that those words are emanating from the lotus mouth of the Supreme Lord. So yeah, somebody read the purport. Brinda, please read the purport.
Purport. In the previous verse, it is described that Lord Krishna, being situated in the truths of Sankhya philosophy, is detached from all kinds of matter. In the present verse, it is described that he is the residence of the goddess of fortune. These two things are not at all contradictory. Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature, but he is in eternal blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature or his internal potency. One who has a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand this distinction between the external and the internal potencies. In Bhagavad Gita, the internal potency is described as the para prakriti. In the Vishnu Purana also, the internal potency of Vishnu is described as Parashakti. The Lord is never detached from the association of Parashakti. This Parashakti or her manifestations are described in the Brahma Samhita 5.37 as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa pratibhavitavhihi. The Lord is eternally joyful and cognizant in the taste derived from such transcendental bliss. Negation of the variegatedness of the inferior energy does not necessitate negation of the positive transcendental bliss of the spiritual world. Therefore, the Lord's gentleness, his smile, his character, and everything related to him are all transcendental. Such manifestations of the internal potency are the reality of which the material shadow is only a temporary representation from which everyone with a proper knowledge must be detached. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So then he's saying that imam lokam amum chaiva ramyan sutarayadun reme kshanadaya dattakshana strikshana saurudah. This is also a nice shloka. He says that the Lord enjoyed his pastime both in this world and in the other worlds, the higher planetary systems, specifically in the association of the Yadu dynasty. At leisure hours offered by night, he enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with women. Yeah, somebody read this. Nakul Prabhu, please read this translation. Sorry, only purport, not translation. Translation I've read.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Prabhu.
Yeah. The Lord enjoyed in this world with his pure devotees, although he is the personality of Godhead and is transcendental to all material attachment. He nevertheless exhibited much attachment for his pure devotees on the earth, as well as for the demigods who engage in his service in the heavenly planets as powerful delegated directors in the management of all material activities. He displayed special attachment to his family members, the Yadus, as well as for his 16,000 wives, who had an opportunity to meet him in the leisure hours of night. All these attachments of the Lord are manifestation of his internal potency, of which the external potency is only a shadow representation. In the Skanda Purana, Prabhasa Kanda, in the topics between the Lord Shiva and Gauri, the manifestation of his internal potencies is confirmed. There is mention of the Lord's meeting with 16,000 covered damsels, although he is Amsa, transcendental super soul and maintainer of all living entities. The 16,000 covered damsels are a display of 16 varieties of internal potencies. Thus, this will be more elaborately explained in the 10th canto. It is said that there the Lord Krishna is just like the moon, and the damsels, part of his internal potency, are like the stars around the moon.
Yeah. So actually, when Krishna is saying in this verse, actually, he's explaining that though Lord is not attracted to the actions of Maya Shakti, he is attached to the actions of the Chitta Shakti. So you can say with when the previous shloka says that sweet, he has by the sweetness of his four things over here. One is his glance, smita avalokena, then his words, vacha, which are compared to nectar, and then by his actions or by his character, you can say. And then the form of the Lord, he gave pleasure to devotees not only on the earth but even of Swargaloka, and especially to the Yadus he gave. But then he's saying that among the Yadus also he enjoyed, especially with the women. So this shows greater and greater attachment and showing affection through throwing affection through you can say a festival and of conjugal love. Kṛṣṇa saurudah, that is why he's saying that. So for these women, at suitable opportunities where when he says dattakshanaha, dattakshana means during night, and he's enjoying, and this is because actually these queens are none other than, these queens were actually composed of his Chit Shakti. Means what? From his own Swarupa only these queens have come. And then that is why in the Skanda Purana, where Prabhupada says over here, where Lord Shiva is talking to Parvati, and where all these 16,000 queens are described, and these 16,000 queens have 10 sons, and that is why Krishna is known as Hamsa, Paramatma, Janardhana, and his 16 Shaktis were there, and exactly like he's like a moon, and the Shaktis were like the you can say phases of the moon, and that's how he's been described over here. Of course, in the 10th canto, when where Prabhupada is saying that when Krishna will be born, okay, then exactly during the rasa dance, exactly this what do you say, this instance will come, and that time we will see when we reach to the 10th canto. So ahead he says that, because this is the 21st sloka, then he'll say that how the Lord developed this or exhibited his detachment. Tassevam ramamanasya samvatsara ganan bahuna gruhamedeshu yogeshu viraga samajayatah. Lakshminarayan Prabhu, please read the translation and purport.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. Purport. Even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years just to teach others how one should live in householder life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura explains that the word samjayata means fully exhibited. In all his activities while present on the earth, the Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop a detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental covered damsels. But the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of material nature. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and other goddesses of fortune, as described in the Brahma Samhita 5.29, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevimanam. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
So what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say is that the Lord's detachment, it is explaining the Lord's detachment in his activities. So if the Lord has detachment from his actions, which are not subject to actually karma, what person will have affection for his own actions which produce karma? So if he is practicing bhakti yoga and he surrenders to the Lord of yoga, so then he will not get the actions of his karma. Then ahead he says that. So this is the 23rd shloka, and he says that दैवाधीनेषु कामेषु दैवाधीन स्वयं पुमान् को विश्रम्भेत योगेन योगेश्वरमनुव्रतः. Anuprabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Translation: every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Purport: as stated in Bhagavad-gītā, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others, who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men and demigods, within the purview of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Prakriti or Devi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent, that is, with any sense, he can perform the activities of the other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and can perform by the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life, but simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in Bhagavad-gītā 18.55, Bhaktya mam abhiyanati yavanyas tasme tadvataha, one cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. So, if you see, even in this 22nd shloka also, he's saying that even being in household life, the Lord is exhibiting detachment, vairagya. So Krishna, when he was there, he completely showed, indifference and detachment to the path. And this path of karma is actually what do you say? There is this word is called typified by Rajoguna when you are performing, the household activities. So to what happens that when you have Rajoguna, then these items are enjoyable to the grihasthas. So for Krishna, this continued at all times. But at this time, it became more evident. Detachment actually means what? Detachment means detachment from the gunas. Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun. And so, when you say Guneshva asango vairagyam, detachment means no association with the gunas. And because of this only definition, there is no question of such detachment even in his pastimes with Rukmini and others. Because why? Mother Rukmini also is in Shuddha Sattva. Krishna is also Shuddha Sattva. And both are beyond the material gunas. So when Krishna is enjoying, or when Krishna is detached, we should not think that, oh, they are attached because of the gunas, or they are detached because of the gunas. So their sense control is completely, not controlled by any daiva. For us, over here it is controlled, by some supernatural force that is called Daiva. So such a person, unless he is a devotee, then he cannot put faith in the Lord's transcendental sense activities. And that is why, one who has become a devotee, only he can actually render devotional service. Otherwise, it is very difficult. So, let's see the next shloka. Now, from this shloka onwards, what are the events that led to the annihilation of the Yadus? Puryam kadachit kridabhir bhoja kumarakay opita munayo se shepur bhagwan mata kovidah. Then he says that. Rupa Mataji, please read the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, and thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. Purport. The associates of the Lord who were playing the part of princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they would offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the saint, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced to anger by any of the sporting activities of the princes born in the holy dynasties of Yadu or Bhoja, wherein the Lord himself appeared as a descendant. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princes were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could never be vanquished by any act of material nature, were subjected to the reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. One should therefore take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Mataji, what Bhoja dynasty means?
Bhoja is a dynasty, like how Yadus is a dynasty. So Bhoja is also a dynasty. And in the Bhoja dynasty, there were many other kings also who were there and who were born in that particular dynasty as such. So Yadu and Bhoja dynasty both were actually that time as such destroyed that time. And
So,
so
Mataji, the people born in Bhoja dynasty are also pure devotees. Is that what it is saying here?
no. The princes of the Bhoja dynasty were made dynasty made the great sages very angry with their jokings. And then this was actually desired by the Lord only. It was not desired by anybody, but it was desired by the Supreme Lord only. That way. So actually, this Bhoja dynastic Prabhupada somewhere has written that this in Canto number 1, where Prabhupada has given a very elaborate description of many dynasties he's given. Uh, I don't remember very, very specifically this Bhoja dynasty. Because this king of Bhoja was at the Bhoja dynasty is actually, there was a king of the Bhojas, and that is why he was called the Bhoja dynasty. Give me 1 minute, okay? Of course, this Bhoja dynasty was, let's see ahead, maybe something we might just get to know. I think it is a dynasty only. Vrishni dynasty, the Bhoja dynasty, the Yadu dynasty. So these are all dynasties only. Yeah, I think these are all dynasties only. Yeah, let's see ahead. So ahead he says that Tata kapi kati pai ततः कतिपयैर्मासेर्वृष्णे भोजान्धकादय ययुप्रभास सृष्टा रथैर्देवविमोहितम्. A few months passed, and then, bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of the Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andhaka, who were incarnations of demigods, went to Prabhas, while those who were eternal devotees of the Lord did not leave but remained in Dwarka. So see, these are all, so the few months were when by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andhaka, they were all incarnations of the demigods. The descendants of the Bhoja dynasty, Vrishni and Andhaka, they were the incarnations of, and that is why went to Prabhasa, but those who are the eternal associates of the Supreme Lord, they remained in Dwarka only. And then he says that let me see any references of the kings mentioned in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Let's see this. What Rupa Mataji is saying? Yeah, King Bhoja, Paramara dynasty. Oh no, I don't know this. No. No, this is not that, Mataji. This is not that dynasty. This is not that dynasty. Okay, let's go to the list. Tatra sansnatva pitrun devam rishimschaiva tad ambhasa tarpayitvatha viprebhyo gavo baho guna daduha. So, Anuprabhu, please read this translation and purport both.
Translation. After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respects to the forefathers, demigods and great sages, and thus satisfied them. They gave cows to the Brahmins in the royal charity. Purport. Amongst the devotees of the Lord, there are several divisions, mainly Nitya-siddhas and Sadhana-siddhas. The Nitya-siddha devotees never fall down to the region of the material atmosphere, even though they sometimes come onto the material plane to execute the mission of the Lord. The Sadhana-siddha devotees are chosen from the conditioned souls. Out of the Sadhana devotees, they are mixed and pure devotees. The mixed devotees are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities and are habituated to philosophical speculation. The pure devotees are free from all these mixtures and are completely absorbed in the service of the Lord, regardless of how and where they are situated. Pure devotees of the Lord are not enthusiastic to put aside their service to the Lord in order to go visit holy places of pilgrimage. A great devotee of the Lord in modern times, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, has sung like this: to visit holy places of pilgrimage is another bewilderment of the mind, because devotional service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. For pure devotees of the Lord who are completely satisfied with the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is hardly any necessity to visit the various places of pilgrimage, but those who are not so advanced have the prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the rituals. The part of the princely order of the Yadu dynasty, who went to Prabhash, performed all duties to be done in a place of pilgrimage and offered their pious actions to their forefathers and others. As a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, great sages, other living entities, people in general, forefathers, etc., for various contributions received from them. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. The Yadus who went to the Prabhash pilgrimage site performed their duties by distributing land, gold, and well-nourished cows in royal charity, as described in the following verse.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. So ahead he says that Hiranyam rajatam shayyam vasansya jinakam balanah yana rathani bhan kanya dhara vritti karimapi. Lakshmi Narayan Prabhu, please read this translation and purport both.
Yes, Mataji. Translation. The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin seeds, blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for maintenance. Purport. All these charities were meant for Brahmanas, whose lives were devoted entirely to the welfare of the society, both spiritually and materially. The Brahmanas were not given their services as paid servants, but the society provided them with all necessities. It was arranged for some of the Brahmanas who were in difficulty for marriage to be given girls. The Brahmanas therefore had no economic problems. The Kshatriya kings and rich mercantile men would provide them with all that they needed, and in exchange the Brahmanas were completely devoted to the elevation of society. That was the way of social cooperation between the different castes. When Brahmana class or caste gradually became easygoing, being fed by the society, although they had no Brahmanical qualifications, they degraded themselves into Brahmana Bandhus or disqualified Brahmanas. And thus, other members of society also gradually fell down from the social standard of progressive life. As described in the Bhagavad-gītā, the caste system is the creation of the Lord and is arranged according to the quality of work rendered to society and not in terms of birthright, as falsely claimed in the present degraded society. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So ahead he says that Annam chorurasam tebhyo datta bhagavat arpanam, dattva bhagavat arpanam govit prarthanasva sava shura pranemu mur bhuvi murdhabhi. Vrinda, please read this translation and purport both.
Translation. Thereafter, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead and offered to their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmanas. Purport. The behavior exhibited by the descendants of the Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhasa was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. The perfection of human life is attained by the following three principles of civilization: protecting the cows, maintaining the Brahmanical culture, and above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a pure devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life. The perfection of human life is to be elevated to the spiritual world, where there's no birth, no death, no disease, and no old age. That is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material advancement in so called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuff which is not offered to the personality of Godhead. Foodstuff offered to the Lord is accepted by the devotees as the mercy of the Lord. After all, the Lord supplies all kinds of foodstuff, both to the human being and to the other animals. A human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, etc., the prime necessities of life, are supplied for the mankind by the Lord, and such foodstuff cannot be manufactured by any scientist or materialist in a laboratory or factory established by human effort. The intelligent class of men, called the Brahmanas, are those who have realized the absolute truth in his supreme personal feature, are called Vaishnavas. But both of them except foodstuffs, which are the remnants of sacrifice. Sacrifice is ultimately meant to satisfy the Yagna Purusha. Vishnu in Bhagavad-gītā 3.13, it is said that one who accepts foodstuff as the remnants of sacrifice is freed from all sinful reactions, and one who cooks foodstuffs for the maintenance of his body takes in all kinds of sin, which lead only to suffering. The foodstuffs prepared by the Yadus are the Prabhasa pilgrimage site to offer to the bona fide Brahmanas. They were all offered to the personality of Godhead Vishnu. The Yadus offered their sincere obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. The Yadus, or any enlightened family in the Vedic culture, are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of service between the different divisions of the social orders. The word Uru Rasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by the combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. All such preparations are in the mode of goodness and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad-gītā 9.26, the Lord accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruits, flowers, leaves, and liquids, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Devotional service is the only criterion for a bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that he positively eats such foodstuffs offered by the devotees. So, judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained, civilized persons, and their being cursed by the Brahmana sages was only by the desire of the Lord. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the third canto, third chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam entitled The Lord Pastimes out of Vrindavan. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. So, in this last shloka, the Vrishnis whose lives were dedicated to cows and brahmanas, they were offered them foods which are offered to the Lord, and they were the strict followers of dharma, and their actually disappearance was completely dependent on the Lord alone. And he also intended to show that it is not proper for the brahmanas to show anger, and by this act the Devtas also now were separated from the Yadus, who were actually the eternal associates of the Lord. And then they went back to the heavenly planets, Swarga, and the Lord's sixth opulence of detachment is also actually indicated over here, that by hiding the glories of his devotees, bhakti, his abode, his pastimes, his associates, the Lord then what happened? He deceived the materialistic people, and he produced a longing in his devotees. And such. So this chapter ends over here, and in the next chapter, where Vidura will approach Maitre Muni. So over here, what happens is that Uddhava, he departed from Dwarka, and having heard Uddhava, when Uddhava heard of Krishna's disappearance, then he went to he met actually Vidura. And then when Vidura is asking some questions to Uddhava, so Uddhava, what he does is that he says that, see, I can tell you, but I feel that there is sage Maitre Muni. It is better that you receive instructions from Maitre Muni. So, and that's how Vidura will meet Maitre Muni now. And this is also a very nice chapter, a very, very wonderful chapter. How the Yadus disappeared and how the Lord met Uddhava and Maitreya Rishi, and how Lord spoke to Uddhava, and how is Uddhava also glorifying Krishna, and how Krishna gives instructions to Uddhava and Uddhava is following those instructions. And then how did Vidura also take knowledge from Uddhava? And then why was Uddhava left after the Lord left or disappeared? So there is a special role of Uddhava, after the disappearance of the Lord. And how Vidura is enlightened by Uddhava, and then Vidura is meeting actually Maitreya Muni. So Maitreya Muni's scene does not come in this 4th chapter, but Uddhava, Vidur, they are meeting, and very wonderful this chapter is also. That this is such a beautiful chapter. What I'm seeing over here in my notes. Very beautiful chapter this is. Too beautiful chapter. Okay, so what we'll do is we will continue this tomorrow. And we will see, we'll start this chapter from tomorrow. Vidura approaches Maitreya Muni. So, dear devotees, thank you so much for joining in. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.